HOA Karen didn't know I livestream my pool. Now she's viral in 3 countries. Part 1. The pool, the peace, and the Karen quake. I was half asleep, half submerged, and fully in heaven. A glass of iced lemonade in hand, the sun warm on my skin, birds chirping in perfect rhythm with the soft ripple of water, and just a few feet away, a mounted HD camera live streaming my peaceful backyard pool to the internet. Nothing fancy, just ambient pool vibes. A quiet corner of the world, shared with people tuning in from Norway, Japan, even Kansas. Thousands watched for the calm, the serenity, then click, clack, click, clack, the sound that shattered my peace. Karen, clipboard queen, president of the HOA, unofficial, of course. No one actually remembers electing her. But that didn't stop her from patrolling the neighborhood like a tax collector with a vendetta. She stomped into my backyard, again, her citrus-scented air freshener arriving a full second before she did. "You've just violated Section 14B of HOA decorum," she barked, holding that clipboard like it was the gospel. I took a slow sip of lemonade, then looked at the camera. Over 3,000 live viewers, and climbing. Karen had no idea. She was already viral. Part 2. The HOA Chronicles. Begin that night. I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, but because of the buzz, the energy, the sheer madness of it all. My quiet backyard, my peaceful little pool, had somehow become the stage for the most entertaining HOA meltdown the internet had ever seen. And Karen? She wasn't just trending, she was transcending. By midnight, her fall into the shallow end had been remixed with EDM beats. There was already a TikTok dance called the Karen Splash. Someone in Brazil animated it like a Looney Tunes short. And me? I was still just floating on the same inflatable sipping lemonade, trying to process what the heck had just happened. The next morning, I woke up to a different sound. Not the birds, not the breeze, the doorbell. And I knew. She was back. I opened the door, and yep, there she was. Karen 2.0. Same rage, but now with a sealed letter in hand and sunglasses bigger than her actual problems. "This," she said through clenched teeth, "is an official HOA warning. You violated multiple community codes by live streaming without board approval." I took the envelope, turned it slowly in my hands like I was unwrapping a villain's monologue. "You mean this HOA?" I said, pointing to the top corner. "The one where you self-appointed yourself president and forgot to tell anyone else?" She didn't even blink, just jabbed a finger toward my lawn camera. "Take it down, or I escalate." Now here's the thing. Karen thought she was the boss of the neighborhood, but what she didn't realize is that I'd just been promoted by the entire internet. So I stepped back, held up my phone, and let the live stream roll. 3,000 people, then 4,000, 6,200, and then I said loud and clear, "Hey folks, say hi to Karen, again." The comments exploded. "She's back! Season 2 is here! Let's go!" Karen froze. She realized, maybe for the first time, that she wasn't just threatening a neighbor anymore. She was starring in a show she couldn't control. And just like that, she turned, heels stomping, and marched away. But not before muttering, "This isn't over." And in that moment, I knew she was right, because this was just the beginning. Part 3. The lawyer, the laugh, and the live feed. The next morning, I was just finishing my second cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. Max gave a half-hearted bark and flopped back down, already sensing it wasn't food-related. I opened the door, and there she was, Karen, wearing sunglasses that tried and failed to hide the firestorm in her eyes. And beside her, a man in a gray suit so stiff, I was convinced he'd been ironed. "This is my attorney," she said, her voice clipped, tight. "We're here to serve you with a cease and desist." I leaned casually against the door frame, coffee still in hand. "Cease and desist? From what exactly?" Karen's lawyer stepped forward, holding out a black folder like it contained the Constitution itself. "You are being asked to immediately remove all footage involving Ms. Delaney and discontinue your live stream." I flipped the folder open slowly. A list of alleged violations: privacy infringement, reputational damage, unauthorized digital exposure of HOA officials. I looked up and smiled. "You mean the footage where she walked onto my private property, screamed at me, then cannonballed into my pool?" Karen's jaw clenched. "My reputation has been destroyed. I've been turned into a meme, translated into German and Spanish. I even got an email offering me a sponsorship from a novelty wig company." I took a slow sip of coffee. "That sounds like free PR to me." Her lawyer didn't flinch. "Regardless of popularity, your actions are affecting her personally and professionally. We demand removal of the content, or we will escalate." I didn't blink. Instead, I turned and raised my phone just enough for the camera on my porch to catch the moment. "Hey, chat," I said calmly. "Karen's back, and this time she brought a friend." The stream chat exploded. Karen gasped. "You're still streaming?" "Of course," I said. "Always. Smile. You're live." She lunged forward like she was going to swat the phone out of my hand. The lawyer grabbed her wrist mid-reach. "We're done here," he muttered. "Expect formal correspondence." He turned to leave, but Karen stayed frozen for a beat, rage trembling behind her teeth. "You think this is a game?" she hissed. "No," I said with a grin. "But you're losing." As they walked off, I called out, "Tell your sponsor, the wig should be waterproof next time. Door closed, stream on, and Karen, still trending." Part 4. Karen goes full spy mode and fails spectacularly. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. A cease and desist. A dramatic lawyer. And a bruised ego wrapped in oversized sunglasses. But Karen? Karen doesn't retreat. She reloads. Later that day, a neighbor sent me a photo. It was Karen, standing at the edge of his lawn, pointing toward my backyard with binoculars. Binoculars. She looked like a suburban Bond villain, clipboard in one hand, notepad in the other, spying on a pool float like it was national security. That night, I checked my stream stats. They were climbing again. Comments flooding in. "Karen's starting a neighborhood surveillance agency. Is this the new Netflix docuseries? Put her on the HOA watch list." People were loving it, but Karen wasn't. The next morning, I woke up to a new flyer on my porch. Not an HOA notice, not a warning. No. This was something much, much pettier. A grainy, black and white image of me captured mid-yawn on my float, with bold letters. "Caution. Resident has been live streaming HOA members without consent. Protect your privacy. Protect your community." At the bottom, a signature that wasn't a signature. Just a single letter. K. She'd gone rogue. Printing propaganda. Like a Cold War spy campaign, but with more sandals and passive aggression. But here's the thing. While she was handing out leaflets and waving binoculars around like a budget mall cop, she didn't realize someone else was watching her. And that someone? My other neighbor, Janine. She messaged me that afternoon. "Hey, I think you're gonna want to see this." Attached was a short video, grainy, wobbly, but crystal clear in one aspect. Karen, on her phone, standing in her driveway, pacing, ranting. I'll make sure he regrets ever touching that stupid camera. I don't care what it takes. I'll find out where he works, who he works for. I'll get him fired if it's the last thing I do. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just drama anymore. This was a threat. She wasn't just mad that people were laughing. She wanted to destroy me. But what she didn't know was that Janine's camera caught everything. Clear audio, perfect timestamp, undeniable intent. I saved the video, made backups, 3 of them. And then I set my next live stream title, Karen's Secret Plan, caught on tape. Because if she wanted war, then it was time to give the people a front row seat. Part 5. The stream heard round the world. I scheduled the stream for 6 p.m. sharp, titled it simply, Karen's Secret Plan, caught on tape. No drama in the thumbnail. Just a blurry screenshot of Karen mid-scream with a bold red stamp that said, exposed. By 5:50 p.m., over 10,000 people were already waiting in the chat. Popcorn emojis, laughing gifs, comment after comment from folks all over the world. Japan, New Zealand, Ohio. At 6 p.m., exactly, I went live. I sat poolside, calm as a still lake, lemonade in one hand, my phone in the other. Then I leaned toward the camera. Good evening, Internet. Tonight's feature presentation is called Karen's Secret Plan Caught on Tape. Let's begin. And I hit play. The video started. Karen, pacing like a general before battle. Her voice, cold, calculated, cruel. I don't care what it takes, I'll ruin him. I'll dig up his records, make him wish he never live-streamed anything. She didn't just cross a line. She obliterated it. The chat exploded. Whoa, she's unhinged. This is full-on harassment. Karen.exe has officially gone rogue. One guy from Canada dropped a super chat that just read, "She's cooked." Another viewer, somehow watching from Brazil, commented, "If she came after me like that, she'd be swimming in lawsuits." But I didn't say anything. Not at first, I just let the video loop once, then looked into the lens and said slowly, "So, what do we do now?" Silence. Then, boom, chat flooded again. Lawyers, retired judges, even a podcast host I recognized chimed in saying, "This woman just became the final boss of HOA horror stories." Someone suggested I sell t-shirts. Another offered to help fund legal defense. One person even asked if I'd make Karen ringtones. It was surreal. But behind the memes, behind the laughter, there was something real happening. Karen wasn't just embarrassing herself anymore. She was becoming the perfect example of what unchecked power in the wrong hands looks like. And the neighborhood? They weren't laughing anymore. They were angry. And then came the knock on my door. It wasn't Karen this time. It was Mr. Lewis, one of the most low-key, rule-following, garden-trimming HOA board members you'd ever meet. He looked around before speaking, like he was afraid she'd burst out of a hedge. "She's driving us all crazy," he whispered. "We didn't sign up for this circus. Now CNN's calling. Reporters are asking questions. People think we support her." He glanced toward her house, then back at me. "You still have that footage?" he asked. I nodded. He gave me a small, tired smile. "Then I think it's time we talk about removing Karen from the board." And just like that, the war turned. Not just online, not just in memes, but in real life. And Karen, she had no idea the very HOA she claimed to rule was about to turn on her. Part 6. The Fall of Queen Clipboard. I didn't sleep much that night, not from worry, from anticipation, because I knew the wheels were turning. And Karen? She had no clue her empire was starting to crumble. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No flyers on my door, no violation notes about solar lights or mailbox angles, no surprise screaming from the sidewalk. Just birds, wind, and peace. Until my email pinged. It was from Janine, my neighbor down the street. Subject line, "You're gonna want to see this." I opened it. Attached was a blurry cell phone video. It showed Karen in her driveway, pacing again. Phone pressed to her ear. But this time, she wasn't angry. She was frantic. "He's turning the neighborhood against me," she hissed into the phone. "They're starting to talk. Even Lewis is wavering. If we don't act now, I'll lose control." Control. That word told me everything. This wasn't about bylaws, or cameras, or HOA order. It was about power, and Karen was losing it. Later that afternoon, I got a text from Lewis. "Emergency board meeting tonight. Don't miss it." I showed up early. The clubhouse was packed, for the first time in forever. Neighbors who never attended a single HOA meeting were there. Quiet couples, frustrated dads, retirees with arms crossed and eyebrows raised. And Karen? She walked in like nothing was wrong, clipboard in hand, smile like plastic, like she could just outlast the storm. But this time, she was the one under the microscope. The HOA president, Linda, opened with a shaky voice. "We've received serious concerns regarding board conduct and inappropriate use of HOA authority." Karen's smile tightened. Her fingers gripped her pen just a little harder. I stood. "I have footage, documents, testimonies." I placed them all on the table. Then calmly, I turned to the crowd. "She tried to ruin my reputation, trespassed on my property, lied to the neighborhood, and now she's threatening people who speak up." I didn't yell. I didn't need to. Because truth speaks louder than rage. Karen stood up, furious. "This is slander, lies. I've given my life to this neighborhood." Someone from the back muttered, "We didn't ask you to." The room fell quiet. Then Linda took a breath, looked around, and asked, "All in favor of suspending Karen Delaney from her position on the board, pending investigation?" Hands went up. 1, 2, 3. Then the rest followed. Even Nancy, Karen's longtime ally. Karen stared at her like she'd just been stabbed in the back with a decorative lawn stake. "You're all making a mistake," she snapped. "I built this community." "No," I said, stepping forward. "We built it. You just tried to own it." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Then, without a sound, she grabbed her clipboard, tucked it under her arm, and walked out. No applause, no shouting, just silence. The kind of silence that settles in when the rain is finally over. But deep down, we all knew something. Karen wasn't done. Not yet. Because clipboard queens? They don't go down quietly. They regroup, and they come back louder. Part 7. The clipboard strikes back. For a few glorious days. It felt like spring had finally arrived. No flyers, no fines, no passive-aggressive patrols in beige cardigans. Neighbors smiled more. Max actually napped on the porch without getting barked at by human drama. But peace was short-lived. Because just when we thought we'd seen the last of her, Karen struck back. It began with something small, a little yellow envelope taped to my mailbox. No HOA letterhead, no signature. Inside, violation, decorative gnome, not consistent with community aesthetic. I laughed, out loud. That gnome had survived rainstorms, sprinkler wars, and 3 failed HOA campaigns. He wasn't going anywhere, but that was just the beginning. The next day, a new letter arrived. Complaint. Pathway lights exceed approved brightness for nighttime serenity. Then, alert! Lawn hose improperly coiled. Tripping hazard. She was sending these anonymously. But the language, the tone, that bold font and dramatic capitalization, it had Karen written all over it, just without the signature. She'd lost the title, but not her obsession. I decided to ignore her, for a while, until the drone showed up, a real drone, buzzing low across my backyard like a nosy little helicopter. It flew by twice, then a third time, hovered, and zipped away. I checked my security footage, and sure enough, the drone had a sticker on it. Property Audit Initiative, HOA Watch. Oh, come on. I didn't even need to ask who was behind it. Karen wasn't fighting for the HOA anymore. She was fighting for her ego. That night, I gathered the neighbors. We met in my backyard. No cameras, no drama, just conversation. Turns out, I wasn't the only target. Mr. Jenkins got a warning about the color of his recycling bin. Angela received a citation for spiritually aggressive wind chimes. Even Janine, the calmest person on the block, had been flagged for sidewalk chalk misuse. We were all done. Done with her games, done with the paper cuts and clipboard warfare, done with Karen's reign in exile. So we made a decision. Not revenge, not retaliation. Something better. We created a neighborhood peace pact. We printed laminated signs that read, "No HOA, enforcers beyond this point without consent." We installed them on every lawn that wanted one. Nearly the whole street joined in. And then we threw a party. The Reclamation BBQ. No flyers, no approval forms. Just burgers, music, and laughter. Even Max wore sunglasses. And the gnome, front and center, spotlighted with a tiny sign that said, "Still standing." Karen didn't show up, but we knew she was watching. Somewhere behind those curtains, stewing, plotting, probably writing a 10-page letter about unauthorized grill smoke. But this time, she wasn't just outnumbered. She was outgrown. Because while she held onto her clipboard like it was a crown, the rest of us, we were busy building something better. A neighborhood that didn't fear its own rules. A community that didn't bow to nonsense. And Karen, well, she was just a ghost in beige now, watching, but no longer in charge. Part 8. The Pond That Silenced a Tyrant. I thought it was over. Truly. The signs were up. The BBQ was a success. The gnome was officially more popular than half the HOA board ever was. But Karen, she wasn't the type to accept defeat with grace. One morning I stepped out to water the ferns near the back fence, and there it was. A plastic bag tied to the gate. Inside, a printed email, unsigned, of course, accusing me of violating an obscure clause about misuse of decorative features for non-recreational purposes. What? It took me a full minute to realize. She meant the gnome. She was still at it, still watching, still scheming, still trying to claw her way back into relevance. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about power anymore. This was about control. About one woman's desperate need to own the silence around her. So I made a decision. One that would guarantee she never set foot near my pool again. I transformed it. Not with chemicals. Not with chains. With something far more permanent. Fish. Specifically, koi. Beautiful, gliding, shimmering koi. The kind that turn your backyard into a sanctuary. And the best part? They were protected. By state conservation guidelines, by wildlife ordinances, and by the simple fact that no one wants to crash a pool party hosted by a dozen majestic fish. It took me a week. I drained the pool, reshaped the edges, added filtration, rocks, plants, and finally, the fish. Golden, white, speckled like little water dragons drifting beneath lily pads. Max watched every step, head tilted, tail wagging like he knew we were building something untouchable. When it was done, I sat beside the pond with a mug of tea and just listened. To the water, to the quiet, to the absence of Karen. That afternoon she appeared. Of course she did. Same sandals, same scowl, same invisible crown. She stood outside the fence, lips already forming a complaint. Until she saw it. The pond. The koi. The absolute serenity she couldn't touch. She blinked like her brain had blue-screened. "What is this?" I sipped my tea. "A pond," she scoffed. "This was supposed to be a pool." "It was, but I upgraded." She stared, searching for some regulation to throw at me. But there was nothing. The HOA bylaws said nothing about ornamental water gardens, nothing about koi, and certainly nothing about serenity being a violation. "You've ruined the aesthetic," she snapped. I leaned back. "Funny. Everyone else says it's the best thing to happen to this street." Her eye twitched. She spun on her heel, muttering something about petitions and ecological balance, whatever that means. But I didn't listen. Because behind me, a koi flipped its fin and sent a soft ripple across the surface. And somehow, that was louder than anything Karen had ever said. It wasn't just water now, it was peace, living, breathing, untouchable. And if Karen wanted to fight a pond, she was going to need more than a clipboard. She'd need a snorkel. Part 9. Bride Vibes and Family Divide. It was a quiet Saturday. The koi glided lazily beneath the lily pads. The wind chimes whispered across the yard. Max dozed on the porch like a retired security guard. For once, nothing was wrong, until a silver compact car pulled into my driveway and stopped. The door opened, and out stepped a woman, mid-20s, hoodie, jeans, sneakers, and on the front of her sweatshirt, in bold pastel font, "Bride Vibes." I froze. She walked up slowly, hesitant, careful, like I might yell or slam the door. But instead, I just stared. Because I knew who she was. Ashley, Karen's daughter, the bride. She gave a small, awkward smile. "Hi, I'm Ashley. I know we've never met officially, but..." She reached into her bag, pulled out a white envelope. "This is for you." I took it. It was the towing bill from her wedding day. "The Lexus? Yeah, we paid it, my husband and I, not my mom." She looked down at her shoes. "She told us she handled it, but obviously..." I opened the envelope slowly. Paid. In full. Weeks ago. "You didn't have to do this," I said. "I know," she replied. "But I didn't want you thinking we were part of all that." She looked around the yard, at the pond, the gnome, the serenity. "This place is beautiful," she whispered. "Honestly, I get it now." There was a pause. Then she sighed. "We're moving. Out of state. New start." I blinked. "Because of her?" She nodded slowly. "There's always been drama. Always chaos. But after the wedding, after everything, we're done." Her voice cracked just slightly. "I just wanted to say thank you for standing up to her, for showing everyone she's not untouchable." She stepped back, gave a polite smile, and turned to leave. But just before getting in her car, she said one last thing. "I hope you keep the koi. They're calming." And then she was gone. Max trotted over, nudged my hand. I scratched his ear. And for a moment, I didn't feel angry. I felt sad. Because Karen hadn't just driven her neighbors away. She'd driven her own daughter out of the state. That night, I sat by the pond, the string lights dancing on the water. My phone buzzed. HOA newsletter. I opened it without thinking. Just another update about lawn care or garbage pickup. But then I saw it. tucked between recycling reminders and the bake sale flyer. Karen Delaney has officially resigned from her position on the HOA board. No fanfare, no farewell speech, just a line, a whisper. The queen of the clipboard had stepped down, and for the first time since moving into this neighborhood, I didn't just feel relieved. I felt free. Part 10. The final gift. The air felt different. No more violation notices slapped on my door. No more suspicious drone buzzes over my backyard. No more heels clicking like judgment on the pavement. Karen was gone, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the quiet wasn't tense. It was earned. I poured a cup of coffee. Max lounged beside the pond. The koi shimmered under soft sunlight like everything had finally reset. And then it arrived. A small white box, perfectly square, wrapped with a satin gold ribbon that screamed, "I still need to control the narrative." No name, no return address. Just sitting there on my porch. Max sniffed it. I did too. Not because I thought it would explode, but because with Karen, you never really knew. I carried it inside, carefully, sat it on the counter, untied the ribbon, and slowly lifted the lid. Inside, a miniature photo album, high gloss, gold trimmed. The front cover read, "Ashley and Brandon's Big Day." You've got to be kidding me. I opened it, page after page of my backyard. Decorated like a wedding Pinterest board, got lost and decided to settle in a stranger's pool. Streamers, folded chairs, champagne flutes resting beside my grill. And there it was, front and center. Karen, in full sun hat regalia, smiling like she was being honored for conquering suburbia. Flip another page, more guests. Toasting by the koi pond that didn't exist at the time. Flip again, the white Lexus, parked across my driveway like a luxury wedding arch. And then, the final page. Tucked gently into the back pocket of the album, a handwritten sticky note, that signature loopy cursive I knew too well. "We hope you'll see now what you ruined, Karen." I stared at it for a long, long moment. No rage, no shock. Just that deep, exhausted breath you take when someone hands you yet another reason to never second-guess walking away from chaos. She didn't just crash my property. She documented it, edited it, printed it, gift-wrapped it, like some kind of passive-aggressive Hallmark apology. This wasn't guilt. This was a guilt trip, an attempt to twist the story, to make me the villain of her fantasy, to turn trespassing into nostalgia, to make the invader look like the victim. So I did what needed to be done. I closed the album, slid it gently back into the box, grabbed a Sharpie, and across the top I wrote, "Return to sender, reality included." I walked across the cul-de-sac, placed the box softly on her porch, knocked once, and walked away. No speech, no confrontation, just silence. Because silence, that, right there, was the real victory. Karen wasn't just out of power. She was out of moves. And the best part? This wasn't even the final chapter. It was just her last, gift-wrapped delusion. Part 11. The last curtain. Call. It didn't happen with a bang. There was no dramatic monologue. No tearful farewell. Not even one final clipboard crusade. Karen's exit came like a whisper. One day, her porch was still decked out with HOA flyers and faded flower pots. The next, empty. No wreath, no wind chimes, no community pride sticker on her mailbox. Just stillness. Like the house itself had sighed in relief. I walked Max past her place that morning, and for the first time in months, he didn't growl. He just sniffed the grass and moved on. No tension, no side eyes, no need for defense, because she was gone. The curtains had been drawn for days, the lights never came on, and her silver Lexus disappeared. At first I thought maybe she was regrouping, plotting the next HOA uprising. But then, a for sale sign appeared on her lawn. No banner, no open house balloons, just a plain sign, white letters, stuck in the ground like a surrender flag. The legend of Karen, the tyrant of trash bins, the enforcer of gnome regulations, the queen of passive aggression, had left the building, and she didn't even slam the door behind her. The neighborhood changed overnight. Lawn chairs came back out. Wind chimes returned. Solar lights flickered along driveways that hadn't dared shine for months. I didn't throw a party. No need. The silence was enough. And then, the HOA bulletin came. Simple header, standard font. But there it was. In a single, unassuming line at the bottom of the page, Karen Delaney has officially resigned from the HOA board. No explanation, no gratitude, no legacy. Just a line. The way you note someone turning in a library book 2 years late. And yet, that line echoed louder than any clipboard Karen ever smacked against a porch railing. That night, I sat by the pond with Max at my feet. The koi stirred gently beneath the lily pads. The sky burned with soft orange light. And for the first time in, I don't know how long, I felt still. No camera alerts, no surprise finds, no lawsuits disguised as love letters. Just the wind, the water, and the quiet. It was over. Not because I beat her, but because the truth, and a little sunlight, did the job for me. She thought the clipboard gave her power, but power, real power, isn't about control. It's about respect. And Karen? She left with neither. Part 12. Echoes of the Clipboard Queen. I thought it was over. I really did. Karen was gone. The house was listed. The clipboard, retired. But some legacies, they don't go down without an echo. It started subtly. One morning, a neighbor's Halloween decoration disappeared. A single pink flamingo, gone without a trace. The next day, a typed note appeared on their front door. This decoration does not meet visual conformity standards. Anonymous. No HOA logo. No signature. But the tone? Oh, it screamed Karen. That trademark blend of smugness and regulation. At first, we laughed. Until it happened again. Another neighbor, brand new to the cul-de-sac, hung soft wind chimes on their porch. Charming, peaceful, barely audible. But the next morning, another note. Noise pollution disturbs community serenity. Anonymous! Really? Wind chimes? Even Max tilted his head at that one. So we gathered, a handful of us, the usual suspects. We met near the HOA bulletin board like suburban detectives. Mark crossed his arms. If she left behind a ghost rule book, I'm selling my house tomorrow. Dana, sipping her iced coffee, rolled her eyes. Maybe she's haunting us through bureaucracy. We all chuckled. But beneath it, that itch, that Karen feeling. You know it. The one where you feel watched, measured, judged for daring to plant marigolds 2 inches too far from the sidewalk. So, I did what I do best. I investigated. I pulled out every old HOA notice Karen had ever left me. All archived, of course, in a folder titled Petty Wars Volume 1. I compared fonts, spacing, wording patterns, and then I found it, on the back of one of the new anonymous notes, barely visible. A faint embossed stamp, P.O. Box 329, Susan Delaney. Susan, Karen's sister, the one she lived with before she ascended the HOA throne. So that was it. Karen hadn't disappeared. She had delegated. Now I could have confronted her, could have filed another complaint, gone live again. But instead, I got creative. I wrote a letter, short, sweet, scathing. Dear Karen, we know, we see you, and we're still not interested. P.S. The gnomes are watching. I printed 30 copies, taped one to the HOA board, slipped one into every mailbox, mailed one, glitter bomb included, straight to that P.O. box. The next day, silence. No more notes, no more flamingo disappearances, no HOA haunting. Just stillness. But not the threatening kind. The earned kind. The kind you fight for, build for, protect with koi ponds and camera lenses, and a neighborhood that finally knows what freedom tastes like. And then Teresa, our new, actually sane HOA president, brought it up at the next meeting. Should we officially retire Karen's clipboard? We voted. Unanimous. The following weekend, we held a ceremony, just a folding table, a cooler of lemonade, and a glass case. Inside, Karen's clipboard, encased like a suburban relic, a cursed artifact of overreach and pettiness. Below it, a bronze plaque read, In Memoriam, the Clipboard Queen, 2016 to 2025. May her paperwork finally rest in peace. We laughed. Some of us toasted. And the kids, they had no idea what was going on. But the adults, we knew. That night, I sat on the porch, Max at my side, the koi drifting beneath moonlight like soft memories. And I whispered into the wind, Goodbye, Karen, because even echoes eventually fade. Part 13. The Gnome Rises. They say, every legend needs a symbol. Batman has the bat. Superman has the S. And our neighborhood, we had the gnome. Not just any gnome. My gnome. The little ceramic warrior who stood guard through cannonballs, cookouts, and every single clipboard crusade Karen ever launched. He was there when she cited me for visual disharmony. There when she accused my koi pond of unauthorized aquatic architecture. And there when I refused to move him. Out of glorious pettiness. He never flinched, never wobbled, just stood there, ceramic grin, plastic sunglasses, tiny fishing pole in hand, like a garden Buddha of suburban rebellion. At the next HOA meeting, now run by normal, breathing humans. Someone joked, we should honor the real hero here, the gnome. Everyone laughed, until someone else said, no, seriously, what if we made him official? The room went quiet, and then, applause. Someone shouted, he needs a name! Suggestions poured in faster than HOA violations during pumpkin season. Cercitation Slayer, Captain Compliance, HOA Ho-Ho, the holiday violation elf, but the one that won? Gnome Mercy. Because let's be honest, there was none. And in this cul-de-sac, we gnome better. 2 weeks later, we held the unveiling. A local artist, retired, eccentric, and wonderfully dramatic, helped us 3D print a life-sized version of Gnome Mercy. He stood 2 feet tall, mounted on a stone pedestal. One hand held a miniature clipboard. The other, a tiny red cape flowing behind him like he'd just walked out of a Marvel movie for dads who mow their lawns in New Balances. And his face? That smug, unbothered little smirk, captured perfectly in stone. At the base was a bronze plaque that read, No Mercy, Defender of Driveways, Champion of Community Sanity, born from petty, forged in HOA fire. Below that, a QR code. When scanned, it linked to a full digital archive of the Karen Chronicles, live stream clips, HOA memos, neighborhood memes, and yes, the infamous pool noodle splashdown in 4K. Tourists didn't come, but neighbors did. Kids took selfies. Teens made TikToks. Someone even proposed in front of No Mercy, On one knee, ring in hand, koi pond glowing behind them like a Hallmark special gone rogue. He had become more than just lawn decor. He was a symbol of rebellion, of laughter, of resilience through the weirdest HOA saga the internet had ever seen. And Karen? Oh, she never came back. Rumor has it she moved across town to a gated community with stricter regulation. Fitting. She reportedly got written up on her second day. Overregulation of the duck pond. You can't make this stuff up. But here, we were free. Every time I passed Gnome Mercy, I gave him a nod. Not smug, not spiteful, just a quiet salute. Because in this neighborhood, the clipboard is gone, the koi are thriving, and the gnome, he stands tall. Because sometimes, the pettiest rebellion leads to the most peaceful victory. Part 14. Epilogue. The pond that silenced a tyrant. Some stories end with explosions. Mine ended with a ripple, just a single koi, brushing past a lily pad, under a golden sky, no legal battle, no final HOA decree, no Karen screaming from her porch with a megaphone she bought online, just peace, real, earned, quiet. Karen moved out the way tyrants always do. Not with fireworks, but with fizzle. One week she was filing fake violations. The next? Gone. No goodbye email, no farewell flyer, no dramatic HOA resignation speech with lemon bars on a folding table. Just a U-Haul, and a silence so thick even the wind sounded unsure of itself. Her house? Curtains drawn, wreath gone, clipboard buried, or maybe burned. No one knew, no one asked. We just let her go. Like a bad idea we'd all tried once and quietly agreed never to speak of again. Life moved on. A new couple moved in. Young, friendly, normal. They brought brownies to their first HOA meeting and asked, "So, what's the deal with the gnome?" We all smiled and pointed across the lawn to Gnome Mercy, standing proud beside the koi pond, cape still fluttering. He told the whole story, without saying a word. The pond bloomed like never before. Lily pads grew larger, water glistened like glass. The koi glided through like memories, slow, gentle, unbothered. People still stop by sometimes, not to invade, not to film, just to breathe, to remember, to stand in the presence of peace that had been fought for, and finally won. One morning, a little girl and her dad walked past the fence. She paused, wide-eyed, staring into the shimmering water. "Daddy," she whispered, "why don't people swim in there?" Her dad smiled. "Because once upon a time, someone tried." She giggled, tossed in a few fish pellets, and stood quietly, watching the koi dance below the surface, like whispers in motion. I sat on the porch that night, Max curled up at my feet, lemonade in hand. The camera was off, for once. I didn't need views, didn't need comments, didn't need validation. Just this, the sound of water, the breeze, the last echo of a battle no one asked for. But everyone survived, and as the moon rose, soft and silver, I whispered to the air, to peace, to koi, and to the day the clipboard finally cracked. Because this wasn't just a backyard anymore. It was a sanctuary. It was a victory. It was mine, and no HOA Karen, no matter how viral, would ever touch it again. Final closing. The last ripple. They say neighborhoods forget that after the drama ends, people move on. New faces move in, old battles fade, the noise quiets down. But here, we didn't forget. We built something from the ashes of Karen's clipboard crusade, something stronger and somehow softer. A koi pond that started as a warning became a refuge. A garden gnome born from pettiness became a protector, and a live stream, once just calming background noise became a voice, a mirror, a spotlight, for every Karen who ever tried to twist power into fear, for every neighbor who was too tired to fight back, for every rule bent into a weapon. We said, no more. So when new residents walk by and ask, what's the story behind that pond? Why does the gnome have a cape? And why does the HOA newsletter say, smile, you never know who's watching? We just smile and let them figure it out. Because the battle's over. The kingdom has healed. And peace? Peace isn't loud. It glides beneath the surface. Quiet, beautiful, unbothered, just like the koi. And as I sit on my porch, lemonade in hand, Max snoring at my feet, I know one thing for sure. The clipboard may rise again somewhere else. But here, it's retired, framed in glass, and replaced by peace. This is the end of the war, but the beginning of everything else.